Good afternoon, Sifters. It is the week of February 9th, 2026, and we got a trio on here today. It's me, Tyler Shervin. We got co-hosts CJ Gettelfinger, Lucas Nilsson. Welcome to today's installment of the weekly Sift Stack. And CJ has got a heck of a lot to unpack for us today on his big 3 weeks. Let's hear about that.
Well, first off, it's great to be back. But yeah, man, this has been, I feel like my entire life has changed in the span of 3 weeks. And that's honestly because it kind of has. To start, got married to the love of my life. So wedding was beautiful down in Puerto
There it
Rico.
is.
Absolutely perfect. Lucas was there. He can attest to it. Had an absolutely great
Amazing.
time. And then we went on our honeymoon. We actually went to Vietnam. So we traveled the entire globe. I think we went on like the longest flight you can possibly be on, 16 hours.
No.
We went from New York to Hong Kong. I watched a couple
That's
good
crazy.
movies, I was enjoying it. Then we did Vietnam for a couple weeks, ate like a king, and then came back. And now I've actually officially moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. So starting married life in a new state. So lots changed since I've been on the Sift Stack podcast, but I'm super excited. We got a lot to catch up on for sure.
Hey, and now you got the $20,000 podcast studio.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
Look at that. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Well, we definitely got a lot of questions lined up for you, CJ. We got to know more about this, but we're gonna keep it pretty tight knit with the index tracker this week. S&P 500 total return for year to date as of market close February 9, 2026, up 1.63%. So we're still looking good for the year. Bloomberg US Aggregate Bond Index is down just a hair below 0% at 0.01%. So still looking good on track for this year of 2026. Now back to the important stuff. CJ, right? You were in Puerto Rico, and and I think you and Kira have vacationed there quite a bit in the past, right? Are you a Bad Bunny fan? Is that how it is?
Everybody's on the Bad Bunny bandwagon now, and I just want to say we were on it first. All right, we were on it first. Now, not gonna lie, I genuinely, for the first time in my life, I can actually say I enjoyed the halftime show more than the actual game last night.
Yeah.
I was fangirling. I'm not gonna lie, that game was pretty boring. A lot of field goals. It was pretty ugly. I think, did y'all see the stat where Bad Bunny had more rushing yards than the Patriots?
Yes. That Bad Bunny beat the Patriots.
He did. He scored the first touchdown of the game, everything like that. But no, I gotta say, when we were down there for the wedding, we were playing a bunch of Bad Bunny, DTMF. The best album, my favorite song. I just absolutely love it. I love it. I'm fully on it. We went to this bar, if anyone's familiar, La Factoria. It's a big old Spanish club. It's a big old salsa bar. Absolutely love it down there. You literally walk into the bar and it feels like you were on Bad Bunny's halftime performance last night. That's exactly what it feels like.
Just an absolute vibe.
It is.
Cameras everywhere.
Literally.
Trees everywhere.
Literally. And
I think the little trees might have gotten more yards than the Patriots. I think
the trees were killing me. That was the other one. Did you see the one where it's like me back in 2018 trying to get my first victory royale?
I did not catch that one. It's too bad. If we could just share all the Instagram memes of the Super Bowl, it would take us probably a whole half hour to go through them all.
At least.
But the other thing I was wondering, CJ, right? You were telling me in Vietnam the food, which is absolutely insane.
It's unmatched.
You can't beat.
No.
Obviously a lot of us have had Vietnamese food in the U.S., but you were saying it's unstoppable.
It is. Anywhere you went, you had like the people there are just absolutely amazing. But anywhere you went, any restaurant you went into, you had like 3 or 4 servers taking care of you. And the turnaround time on this food, like, it was faster than going to McDonald's. It was crazy. You sit down, you order, and in 1.5 minutes, it's on your table. It was absolutely
wow.
Like we went out to eat last night once we got back here, and we were getting angry with how long we were waiting. It was like 8 minutes. I was like, this is unacceptable. I can't wait that long.
In Tampa, they have a lot to learn.
They got to take over, man. The Vietnamese culture was amazing. The food was amazing, and you can just the dollar goes a long way. The currency exchange, $1 is 26,000 dong, and
wow.
Let me tell you, I had some millions of dong in my pocket.
Bro was breaded up.
You were living it up.
No, but
The
the
one
food
big
is
thing I always
incredible.
hear, the beaches are incredible in
Beach
Vietnam.
was
Like it's
incredible. So
just, yeah.
we went to Phu Quoc. It's a very southern island, and it was some of the most beautiful beach I've ever seen. We went to this one beach. It was called can't remember the name of it, but it was basically Starfish Beach is what it was, and there was literally just starfish all over the place. It was
Wow.
beautiful, and the water is like as calm as a glass lake, and it's like up to your waist for 150 yards. You can just go all the way out there. It
Wow.
was amazing.
So this may be a silly question, but over there, can you like see through the water? Is like the water
Yeah,
like that? Wow. I've
crystal
never seen
blue.
that before.
Never. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
not like up north up in New York for you.
Yeah. We got our nice brown water. If you want some excitement, Buffalo River is
Yeah.
the place to be.
No, but
Um,
highly
the
recommended.
other thing I was wondering, you were at a Bill's Mafia. You came across a
Yeah,
Bill's Mafia bar in Puerto
I
Rico, eh?
did. I was shocked. I had to send Tyler and Lucas a picture of it. We were walking down the streets. This would have been Sunday night after we had gotten married. We were trying to go find some place to eat, and it came across the Bill's Mafia bar down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was absolutely beautiful,
We're
man.
everywhere.
They are.
I'm happy, really happy for you that you had just brought, the most incredible 3 weeks of your life. And I know you got more in store later for more about this,
Oh, yeah.
but the Super Bowl, right? I think the three of us, right? We all called the Seahawks. My heart called the Seahawks. My gut wasn't feeling it, but what about that game? What do you guys think about that game there?
Lucas, man, you were telling me
Yeah,
something about that Patriots regular season schedule.
Man, I know. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about those Patriots. A lot of people were saying they were frauds. They had one of the easiest schedules of NFL history. With that fourth place
a lot of
schedule,
fired
they kind of
coaches.
breezed their way into the Super Bowl. But I gotta hand it to them. It's tough to win in the NFL. It doesn't matter who you're facing. It's tough to get wins. So I gotta hand it to the Patriots. Great effort by a new coaching staff, young quarterback. So just want to hand it off to those Patriots fans. Good season. I'm sure that they'll
Hmm.
recoup and be back to the Super Bowl pretty soon. So
Yeah.
good
And
effort
you
by
were
the
saying you
Patriots.
miss Vrabel over at the Titans, right? Lucas,
Oh
is that
yeah,
The absolute worst move in franchise history is getting rid of the
terrible.
best coach of all time. I just don't
yeah,
Amy
understand.
Adams needs to
the best
needs
of
to
all
be out.
time?
Dude,
Yeah,
He's the best of all time
Vrabel in
already.
my book is the best coach there is in the NFL right now. I would take him over any coach.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
He,
That's
he's
fair.
best of the best. What happened in Tennessee is an honest to God shame. Everything that went
It
down with
is.
the ownership and the management, just terrible. One of the worst managed
And it's
teams
hard to win
ever.
if you don't have like a top 10 quarterback. Like I don't think they really Vrabel had
I
an
stick
opportunity
to
with
it to
that
this
in
day.
Titans.
If we did not have Tannehill, the Titans would have a Super Bowl.
Oh man,
Yeah, that is fair. All right, who do you guys think Super Bowl MVP should have been? Should it have been the kicker
Josh Myers.
or Kenneth Walker?
K9, he's a great running back. He had some great runs, but we got to hand it to these kickers, man. They don't get enough
Yeah.
credit, I think. They
Yeah, they don't
score
miss.
the vast majority of the points out of all the positions, and they don't get hardly any credit. So I
Did
think
you
Josh
see?
Myers should have won Super Bowl MVP.
I agree. I'm gonna be right there with you because I was actually adding it up. He actually beat the Patriots. He had 17 points.
So
So
not just Bad Bunny beat the Patriots, just the kicker alone beat the
everybody beat the
Patriots.
Patriots last night. The Pats just could not get a win anywhere.
The thing is though, I was seeing that Kenneth Walker, right? Didn't he cross like 100 yards in like the first half, and he was like on the pace to potentially break a record. I think both Kenneth
Yeah.
Walker and the kicker were on pace to break records. Like I think the kicker was on like I saw some stat that he was second to like LaDainian Tomlinson in like total points or something
Wow.
in some area. But gosh, I mean, I was happy to see the Patriots lose. It made it so much better to wake up on a Monday. It would have been terrible. It would have been terrible doing this podcast if the
Those
Patriots
Patriots, they
had
live
won.
rent free in your Bills' minds. It's ridiculous. You gotta let it go.
1,000%. Well, speaking of letting it go, I mean, you guys saw. I mean, it seems like there's some drama brewing on the Patriots, organization. I mean, it seems like all the big time alumni, Tom Brady, Belichick, owner Robert Kraft. I mean, they all have a lot of beef on each
Yeah.
other these days. Like Tom Brady unfollowed the Patriots Instagram.
Saw that.
I mean, will you guys know anything more about that? Like, what the heck is going on with that?
Hey, what do we think
You know,
about Belichick not being a Hall of Fame inductee?
I think that's a disgrace, honestly. You know, regardless of
I
what
agree.
happens at UNC, he needs to be a first ballot. If he's not the first ballot, then nobody deserves to be first ballot. It's ridiculous. He's got the resume,
100%.
100% to
He does
be
have the resume.
the first. He should be before the first ballot. He's one of the greatest.
Yeah, 6 Super Bowls. I mean, you can't beat it. I had somebody argue to me though. They're like, "Well, this thing and that thing that he's doing, you know, they can't." I'm like, "Well, come on, like,
Plus 2 rings on the
I don't know,
Giants.
like,
He really has 8 rings.
is you can't, you really cannot, you can't beat that resume." So I know that Lucas and I we had a little spat last night about who we were picking for the Super Bowl. Lucas did pick the Seahawks before, but it was very funny. We ran this poll right with the sifters. Who will win the Super Bowl? And sifters, you chose right. 67% went for the Seahawks. I think we had 10 votes for the Seahawks and we had 5 votes for the Patriots. But with the Seahawks, I was getting 3 to 4 votes. 5 minutes left in the game. After the game, you know, for you folks out there that did that, get ready for your Instagram report. We're coming after you. Just kidding on that, but we loved all the responses. Again, very happy with the Seahawks, and that kind of brings up the featured YouTube comment of this past week. So I went out there, said, "Hey, you know, my heart said the Hawks, my gut said the Patriots." One of our number one fans said, "F your heart." He was wrong. He was wrong. He proved wrong. Maduri won. Shout out goes to him. He said, "Go with your heart," and he was right. We went with the heart, and the Seahawks came out on top. So Super Bowl, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
You know, this is always the worst thing, but now there's no more football until September. It's just terrible. It's depressing. I know.
Football now. Football.
Hey, yeah, we got to start focusing on that World Cup coming our way.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Tyler, let me transition us over to the stock of the week. And I think this is just perfectly fitting, as we should. Let's keep on the trend of the Super Bowl. Personally,
Yes, sir.
my favorite commercials I saw last night, got to go to Bud Light Michelob Ultra. So with that in mind, we're going to be talking about Anheuser-Busch, biggest name in the brewing space. So I think I showed both of you all. Did either of you, neither of you said that you saw either of those commercials last night?
I saw the
missed
Peyton Manning one.
Okay, you
Yeah.
did see the Peyton Manning one. Yeah, the Bud Light one was honestly my favorite one. You know, the kegs rolling down the hill. Honestly, what's a wedding without a keg of Bud Light? So I think that they hit that one pretty spot on. And then Shane Gillis just being like, dude, there's a path right there. There's no need to do that. So that was my favorite commercial.
Classic Shane Gillis line.
It is a Shane Gillis line. They have the perfect trio. I mean, honestly, I think if you got Shane Gillis, Post Malone, and Peyton Manning on stand up, like I think you could sell out anything
They would knock it out
in
of
the
the park.
world. You would sell.
They got to
out
bring,
anything.
you know, Peyton Manning's got to bring those two guys on his Omaha Productions.
Yeah,
Just start bringing them out for some catch.
he needs
See
to.
what happens.
He needs to. He needs to start bringing them onto what the Manning telecast more. That's honestly
yeah.
my favorite.
1000.
Well,
They got to
ESPN
mix it
too.
up. Some of these athletes are so dry. They got to get some comedy going because it gets dry. It gets dry.
Did anybody
It's that fast.
happen to see when Marshawn Lynch was on there about 6 weeks ago? That
I did not. I
absolutely
should now. I gotta watch it.
Real.
Now I gotta watch it.
Oh, dude, the Manning and
That
Manning.
Skittles-
There's nothing better than that. Nothing better. A little ESPN too. But hey, so speaking on it, let's talk about Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch. Let's talk about a few things. So honestly, Anheuser-Busch is more than just a consumer staple in our eyes. They've quietly outperformed the S&P 500. They staged a 30% return year in 2025. And that momentum has really continued and led them to a great track so far in 2026. As we know, the market's been a little bit shaky, and we saw quite a bit sector rotation over the past week or two. And Anheuser-Busch has kind of come out on top as we start 2026. They're up consistently, up 19% year to date so far. So few things that kind of lead into that. And what I was just saying is, yes, they're a consumer staple, but I mean, let's be honest, they're maybe a little bit more than just a consumer staple. I mean, who's not gonna drink their beer and go have a good time? So
Heck yeah.
for everyone out there who's not necessarily familiar with the name Anheuser-Busch, you may be a little bit more familiar with Michelob Ultra or Bud Light, Budweiser. Well, they own a few more brands than you may just think. They own tons. So now there's a ton of foreign beer, Chinese beer, things like that. I don't know it. I don't drink it, but they got a lot of good domestic product. To name a few, right? We've already went over Bud Light, Budweiser, Michelob Ultra. My personal
Mhm.
favorite, Corona. Tyler, I know
Oh yeah.
I know one of those will do you in.
Natty
Hey,
Lights, baby.
only one. Only
Natty
one is
Light
needed.
too, man. My personal favorite, the college beer. Nothing like a little bit of Natty Light to end the night right. So they've got a lot of product, and like I said, they are the biggest name in the brewing space. They're actually so big that second place doesn't even make up 50% of what they produce. So
Dang.
with that, they're obviously a giant. And they've been performing really, really well, as we said in 26, as some of that market fear has kind of started to play in. They're a pretty stable product. They're somewhere that you're going to want to go when there's some fear. You know that things are going to probably be pretty decent over at Anheuser-Busch. But what to look for in a good beer, what to look for in a good earnings call is going to be a few things for Anheuser-Busch. First is, like I said, they're very mature, right? They've consistently been beating earnings over the past year or so. But actually, if you look at it, revenues and income are kind of staying relatively flat. So there's really not a lot of growth. Now they're having some good returns, some good stock movement, but overall they're a little bit stagnant. Now, reason so is a few things. First, they're very highly indebted. Just a few years back, they were actually over 100 billion in debt. Now they've
Oof.
been able to bring that down. One really
Big
good
number.
thing with them is they're pretty much a cash flow giant, right? They're able to produce a lot of cash on hand, and they've been using that appropriately, helping bring that debt down. But they've still got a lot. They're still at around 80 billion in debt. And based off where you're looking at it, that debt to equity ratio is usually upwards of 80 to 90%, right? So very high in debt, just something you want to keep your eyes on. There's not a lot more I want to add to it because they're a giant. They performed well. They're a company that you know is going to be around the block. The one thing that, Tyler, I know that we wanted to kind of finish this off on is, well, what about the future for them? As
Oh
people
yeah.
potentially start drinking a little bit less beer, alcohol, wine, things like that is actually
Non-alcoholic
down.
beers.
Yeah, the now non-alcoholic beers, exactly. Who wants those? But what happens looking into the future with potential change and lack of alcohol tolerance for the customer?
Well, I had a question for you, CJ. You're almost about to hit on it. What what do we look for in a good beer? I that's
Uh,
what I do want to know. What is that you guys are looking for?
Honestly, I feel like you want, a little bit of foam, not too much. You want a good pour. And I'm
Mhm.
saying we want somewhere, personally, if it's not above 5% ABV, it's not for me. You might as well just drink water at that point. So
Yeah.
I'm looking for something a little bit stronger. And personally, I mean, you can't go wrong with a Budweiser in my eyes. That's my go-to. If I was to pick it,
Do
I'm
you like
going
it a
either
little more
Corona or
blonde, a little
Budweiser. It
more
depends.
dark?
Do I want to feel like Bad Bunny or do I want to feel like Shane
Yeah.
Gillis?
That's a good way to put it. Luis, how about you? Do you want to feel more like Bad Bunny or more like Shane Gillis? What's your
Yeah, probably
call
more
for
like
the
Shane Gillis, to be honest with you. I'm
Yeah.
I'm more of a Miller Lite
That
guy,
Shane
but I
Gillis
can
beer
go for a
belly?
Michelob here and there.
I dig it. I dig it. Well, everybody, look out for those Anheuser-Busch earnings coming February 12th, 2026, this week, Thursday. Now, to Lucas. Lucas is going to dive in on Amazon earnings. He gave us a lot of big things to look out for last week, and we're very curious to see how that turned out with the latest Amazon earnings report.
So yeah, we're coming off earnings week. Last week we had a lot of big, huge technology companies issue earnings, lots of big surprises, lots of big movements in the stock prices. Overall, we're seeing a lot of the big tech companies across the board report lots of beats on top and bottom line,
Mhm.
seeing lots of great reports. Where we're seeing a lot of concern across the board with investors is really a lot of the capital expenditure growth, or CapEx. Lots of people are really concerned with a lot of the investments a lot of these companies are making into artificial intelligence. So, that being chips, data centers, things like that. So that's kind of a common theme that we've been seeing across the board for a lot of these tech companies, and especially for Amazon. So just kind of digging into some of the key points that we talked about on the last show. Holiday sales. So Amazon, they had record sales. They reported record sales this time around. They had sales of about $213 billion for this most recent quarter. That's up 14% year over year. So that's really, really good growth. Revenue pushed over $700 billion for the first time ever. Amazon is now the highest revenue company in the world. They're now beating out Walmart, so the highest revenue generating company. And then Amazon's crown jewel, the thing that everybody was watching for in this report, AWS. AWS reported revenue growth over 24% year over year. This is the best growth that this segment has achieved in over 13 quarters. So this really knocked the ball out of the park. Investors were really impressed with this point. It's their fastest growing segment and really one of their key income generators. We talk a lot about the distribution and supply chain network that Amazon has and how big of a business that is for them. But it's really the AWS that generates the income. Over 50% of their income is now generated from Amazon Web Services. So this is really what the investors are looking for. This is really high margin, high growth. This is what the investors are looking for, and this is where Amazon is putting the capital. This is where they're putting investments in. AWS is really their growth engine. On another point, ad revenue. So Amazon ad services jumped 22% in revenue this most recent quarter. And this is really acting as their silent engine. As the business grows, they're doing a lot more advertising. Firms are spending a lot of advertising money for their products. And this has been one of the silent segments for them and has really been driving a lot of growth. So up 22%, that's really impressive. And I think investors were overall pretty impressed with that. Where we saw some concern, like we mentioned earlier, is the capital expenditure growth. So last year in 2025, Amazon spent about $131 billion on capital expenditures. That was up from $84 billion in 2024. So obviously there's a big concern in how much Amazon is spending. A lot of investors, they want to be able to pocket some of that cash. They want to be able to pocket some of that cash flow via dividends, via share repurchases, things like that. At some point, the investors want to pocket a little bit of that money. Where we're seeing a big concern is this time around, Amazon is now forecasting $200 billion in capital expenditures for 2026. So a massive jump in spending for this upcoming year, and investors are concerned that could go even higher. A lot of these companies, they keep on going over budget in their capital expenditure spending. So that will be interesting to watch out for coming into this next year. Will Amazon stick to that budget? Will they actually spend the $200 billion? That remains to be seen, but we are definitely looking forward to that coming up this year.
Well, I'm in the one other thing I was curious about was like the Amazon stock price, right? So it's down about 8% year to date. And obviously it's not just Amazon. We're seeing that across like the Mag 7 or typically across the big tech, as CJ had been mentioning, with the broadening of the market, sector rotation, of course. But what's very interesting is since that earnings report, Amazon stock is up about 4% since the earnings report had taken place Thursday night after the bell to market close today, February 9th, 2026. So it seems like everybody, the street's been in agreement with that earnings report overall, that it's been positive. Would you say that, Lucas?
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
much.
I think overall, there was just that kind of initial shock. We saw that 11% sell off on Friday, which really beat that stock down quite a bit around that $200 per share territory. But I think that now investors are kind of coming to grips with the spending. Amazon historically has done very well and has been very successful with their investments. I would say more so than a lot of their competitors. So overall, I think that the market is going to come to grips with a lot of the spending that they're doing. I think that investors are putting their trust in the management team, specifically CEO Andy Jassy, who came from the AWS side of the business. So I think that overall investors will be appreciative of some of the moves they're making in the long run.
Lucas, I think one thing I was going to add to that, and I know me and you have talked about this multiple times, but when you think about it, right there, you just said it, right? They've got the most revenue. They outdid Walmart now. They're the highest revenue earning company. It's unprecedented, right? You hear these numbers of 180 billion in capex, now up to 150 billion, forecast of 200 billion. Well, like we were saying, when you look at their cash flows, things of that nature, as companies continue to grow, and grow, right, as they make more and more and more money, obviously it's got to go somewhere. Right? I know you said that potentially people may want that to become dividends, want that to become share repurchases. Obviously, Amazon is showing you their hand and saying, okay, we're going to continue building it out. And I think it's exactly what you had just said in last week's episode, where you were talking about, right? Maybe the market doesn't necessarily fully comprehend the entire infrastructure that they're still building out. I mean, some of these moves can be negative for sure, right? There's a lot of speculation there, but when you think about it, and you're talking about pretty much the largest company in the world at this point. It's got a lot of money. It's got to figure out where to put it. And people, right, like you just said, there's three kind of options there, but they showed you their hand and said, look, we're continuing for growth. And I think that, as you said, market's starting to understand that. And as you continue to play that out, you'll just have to see how that pans out. And years down the road, that may start to shift. You may start to see more of that become dividend or more of that become share repurchases. But for now, it's just this is where they're going to be using their money.
Oh, yeah. And you bring up a
Well, I
great
find
point,
that
CJ. Amazon, they've historically not been a super investor friendly capital allocation strategy company. Historically, they've never paid a dividend. They don't hardly repurchase their stock. In fact, they actually dilute their stock quite a bit,
Yep.
especially in recent years. But if you really think about it from the eyes of a shareholder, you know, a lot of people, they want those dividends. They want the company to repurchase stock. If a company like Amazon is getting, like we said, a 24% return on their investment, investing in AWS, would you rather get a $1 dividend for your share,
Yep.
or would you rather the company put that money back into the business and grow it at 24% a year? I think the
back in the
answer is
business
a
every time.
no-brainer. So, yeah,
Yep.
definitely a great point there. And I think that Amazon overall is doing the right thing with their capital allocation strategy.
Yep. Agreed.
Dang.
Yep.
Well, that's very, very good to know. Now, considering we're talking about all the spending that people do with Amazon, Walmart, we want to know what is your favorite Anheuser-Busch beverage? First choice, Bud Light. Second choice, Michelob Ultra. Third choice, Budweiser. Last choice is I'm sober. All right, CJ, Lucas, how about you guys? What's your choice of beverage here?
Hey, out
the
of the
beer.
three, I think I already said it. I'm going with a Budweiser out of those options.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the Michelob.
There we go.
Go with the Michelob. I would say I am going. How did this? I'm going with Bud Light. I'm
Hey,
going to go with the Bud Light.
clean
Yeah,
spread. It's good for
that's
us. You know, we wouldn't run out of beer.
100. What? Never ever. There's one of this kind of backtracking on the Super Bowl year, but I had one more question for you guys about this commercial. What did you guys think of the Backstreet Boys were really coming back? They were. I saw them in like multiple commercials.
I did.
Coinbase even featured it. Coinbase. They had a karaoke, and I got into the zone, and I started singing out loud. I almost got kicked out, but it was a great Coinbase commercial that featured them. What I mean, are the Backstreet Boys back? Is that
Backstreet's
what it
back.
seems like is happening with the Super Bowl?
That's what I'm seeing. I think Backstreet's back. I got to give one last, sorry to kind of tailwind your question
No,
here, but
go right ahead.
honestly, my other favorite one, did y'all see the Pepsi commercial?
Which one? What was
The
it?
polar bear one where they stole the Coke polar bears?
Oh, man.
Oh,
Dude,
yes, I did see that.
Dude, we
I
have
did
to
see
sum it
that.
up because it was so sly.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And what they did was it was amazing. They freaking did the Coldplay concert with the CEO. They reenacted that with the polar bears. I was dying.
Wow.
Dude. I was like, this guy can't get away from this. It was insane. It was the polar bears at the concert. If you haven't seen the commercial, go watch the commercial because they absolutely killed it on that one.
I'm definitely going to rewatch it. Well, the other thing I wanted to know is how many of those commercials where there wasn't celebrities, how much of it do you think was AI? You know, if you weren't familiar with the actors, actresses, like, I mean, 'cause I think a significant amount of it,
Oh, yeah.
if
That's
you
a
didn't
good
know
question.
them. I mean, even the celebs, even the ones with the celebs, like there was one with, you had the guy from Seinfeld, you had I can't remember their names. Tom Brady was in it. Jennifer Aniston was in
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And
That was,
they were
yes. That
clearly
was 100% AI. I know the one you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I mean they were DH, but it's just kind
Yeah.
of funny. Even with the celebs, with that one in particular, was obviously AI.
Yeah.
It's clearly like come some ways, but you can still kind of tell. And I'm just curious if they're
Yeah.
for non-celebs roles, are they still getting the actors in there? But
No, they must
That's
be.
interesting.
Well, hey, this has been a great one. This has been fun getting to kind of cut it up. Obviously, Super Bowl is a great time, but I wanted to finish it off with just one last thing, throwback. I know we had talked about it. Just to finish this episode off, one other experience I had on my honeymoon that I just kind of wanted to share. Kira and I actually went and did the Hajong Loop. So what that is like a little mountain range up in northern Vietnam. And honestly, it really was like a life-changing experience. It was one of those things where you're kind of just out there and you get to see culture for what it is and just a totally different life experience. I mean, these people live in the mountains pretty much completely untouched. They work every single day
Mm.
of their life. They're just farmers, and that's all they've ever known. And it was a very humbling experience. So I just kind of share that to say the world is very big. I highly recommend for all who are able, go out there, travel, explore, get to see the world, get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's a really big and beautiful place. And I think that kind of just summarizes everything that we've been able to see over the past few days. And as we continue on, there's a lot of great things ahead. But when you have the opportunity, just get out there and go see the world. Thank you all
Yeah.
for joining for another great episode of the Weekly Sift Stack. Lucas, great to have you as always. Great to be back. Tyler, absolutely just had a great time today. So thank you all for listening, and we look forward to catching you all on the next one.
This material is for educational purposes only and is not intended to provide specific investment advice or recommendations. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.